All right, thank you all for joining us today for our ninth public workshop on the future land use update for Hillsborough County's comprehensive plan. My name's Amy Elmore. I'm a consultant for Plan Hillsborough, and I have been proud to call Tampa Bay my home for over 10 years now. I am honored to be a part of this project. So we've got several members of the Plan Hillsborough team with us today, including Melissa Leinhard, Andrea Papandrew, Melissa Zornita, and Jay Collins. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This meeting is being recorded. This recording and the presentation will be available on our website, planhillsborough.org/HC land use. For any technical issues throughout this session, you can contact Papandrew A at plancom.org. So today, we'll give you a quick overview of the project, where we are in the process, what changes we're anticipating, and the next steps and how you can stay involved. After the presentation, we'll have an open question and answer session. Please use the raise hand feature to ask a question, and we will unmute you. Please keep your microphone muted and your camera off unless you're speaking. You may also use the chat feature at any time to ask the presenters a question. Please note that some features may look different if you're on a desktop or mobile device. So in case this is your first time hearing about this conversation, I'll give you a quick overview of our project. So this is the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan, essentially, it's a legally required document that envisions future growth, provides consistency, prioritizes funding, and protects our resources. And it's typically updated every 7 to 10 years. There are 4 different sections of the comprehensive plan: our natural open space section, our One Water section, our governance section, and our community and built environment section. This project is specifically related to the future land use component of the community and built environment section. All of the other components have been updated, so this is really the last piece of the puzzle to creating great places. We know that by 2045, unincorporated Hillsborough County is expected to see 350,000 more people and 107,000 more jobs. We'll also have an increasing demand for transportation, public services, schools, and recreation. And that's really what this update is all about. We're trying to identify how we should grow and where we should grow. So that's what we're talking about today. Over the past 8 months or so, many of you have been a part of this update process with us, and we're very grateful for your guidance. We've held 7 public meetings, 5 project advisory team meetings, and received over 1,800 responses from our online survey. So based on that public feedback, we took 8 goals for our future land use update to the Hillsborough County Board in March. And all of them were transmitted except for goals 4 and 6. Each of the goals here on the screen will go to the board on Thursday for final adoption. So that includes goals 1 and 2 on growth management, goal 3 on community context, goal 5 on agriculture, goal 7 on balancing our natural resources, and goal 8 on economic development. So in March, when we took these 8 goals to the board asked us to make a few more revisions to goals 4 and 6. So that's what our conversation is going to focus on today, are these revisions that we'll be taking back to the board. A little about goal 4. This is our development goal. The goal is all about development and includes topics such as mixed use, land use suitability, neighborhood and community development, transit-oriented development, airports and ports, and commercial locational criteria. The main element that we've made changes to within this goal is our commercial locational criteria. So commercial locational criteria allows certain commercial development within some residential or industrial areas where it meets people's needs and integrates seamlessly. So if a small convenience store or a coffee shop wants to locate within a residential area, they would not be expected to go through the comprehensive plan amendment process, which can take a lot of time and resources, especially for a mom and pop shop, say. So in March, we brought 3 primary changes to the board, adding the context classification map to help determine appropriate locations for commercial development, adding the neighborhood mixed use 6 category as a future land use category, and adding language that commercial applications must consider community plan language. So based on the board direction, we're making some additional modifications to the commercial locational criteria section. First, the context classification map is now being changed to the functional classification map. The neighborhood mixed use 6 land use category is still being added. The community plan language added that the livable communities element shall prevail if there are any conflicts. And we've implemented a maximum floor area ratio of 0.25 for retail and commercial in order to preserve industrial lands within our industrial future land use categories. We've also modified a few of the policies within the urban service area section of the commercial locational criteria. First, there's a 1,000-foot standard distance from the edge of the right-of-way. Next, the neighborhood that serves commercial is allowed to go up to the maximum floor area ratio. Then we've added some of the urban design standards from the current community design component. And we're requiring a 50% frontage on all roadways that are suburban commercial, suburban town, or urban general. Now, it's important to note that these requirements only apply to a site within the urban service area. They do not apply to isolated parcels that are 5 acres or less, or are less suitable for residential development. In addition, there's a 5,000 square foot requirement at intersections of arterial or collector roadways, as well as major local roadways. In the rural area, the language outlining the square foot limitations, which are based on the number of lanes, has been simplified, and it's noted that these cannot be waived. In addition, we've added some rural area design standards from the current community design component. It's important to note that for these revisions, agricultural related uses are not subject to commercial locational criteria. And this is the existing policy, so that is not changing. So now let's dive into Goal 6. Goal 6 is talking about the built environment policies. The majority of the adopted design-related policies have been moved to Goal 6. And per board direction in March, staff has clarified and simplified some language and removed policy language already in the Land Development Code. This will allow staff to streamline and remove duplicative policies as well. So let's dive into some specifics about these streamlined and simplified changes. So based on board direction, staff split up the urban and suburban categories into two sections to help clarify policies, reflect the characteristics of urban and suburban, ensure a range of uses, and really be able to emphasize the three distinct lifestyle choices that residents have said they want to see within Hillsborough County. Urban is now defined as more than 9 dwelling units per acre, and suburban is defined with 2 to 6 dwelling units per acre. In addition, staff added language to the neighborhoods and communities portion to encourage transit supportive corridors and a mix of uses in close proximity with the urban service area. Staff also added language to encourage pedestrian connection to non-residential and mixed-use buildings, as well as context-sensitive design. For suburban pattern characteristics, we've made this into its own section, and we've decreased the suburban definition from a maximum of 9 dwelling units per acre to 6 dwelling units per acre to encourage more compact development within the urban areas. Staff also added language to encourage livable, walkable, bikeable, and connected communities, emphasizing the support for daily goods and services in suburban areas and within the urban service area. They've also clarified language to encourage building orientation to maximize street frontage and divert adverse impacts away from residential areas. For our residential pattern characteristics section, there were no major changes. So we'll move on to the circulation section. Based on board direction, staff has changed the name of this section to provide clarity and included policies related to multiple modes of travel. In addition, we've added language to encourage transportation design that enhances safe pedestrian, bicyclist, and vehicular multimodal transportation networks. And there's also additional language about including planting, preserving existing vegetation, and using native landscaping in roadway design landscaping. So before we open it up for questions, please note that we will have that today is the virtual meeting, the last virtual meeting on this subject, and we'll have our public hearing, the transmittal to the Board of County Commissioners on August 8th from 6 o'clock in person. For more information on how you can get involved, please visit our website. And if you have any questions at any time, you can always get in touch with us by phone or email, and we'll be happy to help. With that, I'd love to open this up for questions. Again, please use the raise hand feature or put your questions into the chat.
Hey, Amy, Nancy has a hand up, and then we got a lot of questions from Melissa Nordbeck after that in the chat.
Excellent. Nancy?
Can someone unmute Nancy? It looks like she might not be able to do it herself.
Oh, my apologies.
There we go.
Let me check here.
Nancy, are you able to unmute yourself now?
It looks like she's able to. Oh, now she's not again. The little icon keeps switching.
I see that. Try it one more time. Nancy, can you Are you able to talk?
Okay, I changed the settings, so
But she
um,
she still needs to we can't unmute her mic, so she would have to unmute it on her end, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
but you should have the ability to unmute Nancy.
Hmm.
And
If
Nancy,
you still don't, shoot us a message in the chat
Sure.
and we can try to answer the question there. And if that doesn't work, maybe we can make her a presenter.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Finally, sorry.
No, it's fine.
So I have two questions. Did you say that there's going to be no public hearing or notification if someone wants to have a commercial neighborhood zoning district and they're agricultural?
No, I think what Amy was saying as part of her presentation that might have gotten misconstrued is when you have the commercial locational criteria is allowed in certain plan categories instead of having someone to have to go through the plan amendment process. So in other jurisdictions, perhaps there's a residential plan category and they may not allow non-residential uses at all. So someone would need to come in and do a map amendment to the future land use map to change it from a residential plan category to another plan category. In unincorporated Hillsborough County, we have commercial locational criteria in all the plan categories. So if you have a residential plan category, it doesn't count you out of having a residential use, but you do need to go through the rezoning process, which would then trigger a public hearing and notices.
Okay. My other question is, we've switched now from the commercial location map to the functional classification map. Is it possible, I couldn't find the functional classification map. Is it possible to get a link, or how would we get to the functional? Because I still
You
see
can
the commercial, but I
go
don't see
ahead.
the functional.
You should be able to see that on our website. So planhillsborough.org under the mobility section. It's
Mobility.
technically right now it's a non-adopted map, but it should be listed in the maps there. And if you don't see it, you can certainly give me a call or I can send you an email and attach it. But it is going through a comprehensive plan text amendment right now, that map. We're actually briefing it to the planning commissioners this afternoon. And there will be a public hearing in July for that item. And I do believe there are some minor changes on that, but it's really just going from not adopted today to an adopted map of the future land use element. I'm sorry, of the mobility element, which is already adopted today. So they're just moving that map from non-adopted to adopted so we can use it for commercial locational criteria.
Okay, and I have a host of questions. I'll send it to you and Andrea via
Okay.
email. It's taken up
All right,
time
sounds
here.
good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And I think Andrea just added the link to that map in the
Oh,
chat
thank
as
you.
well for ease. All right, we have a few comments here from Melissa Nordbeck. She likes that the livable communities element shall prevail. She likes that. In 4.1.4 and 4.3.8, they mention vested parcels. How does the county make a vested determination?
That's a great question, and that is not something that Planning Commission staff is involved in. The Development Services Department, they have planners on staff who make that determination, would be able to answer that question better. But I do know that they're able to research the history of the property. When the lot was created, was it an officially a lot of record? Those type of things, and that would help inform that decision. But the criteria that they use, that would need to be answered by Development Services.
Excellent. She also has several suggestions on revisions to a few of the policies. I know that we will have record of those from this chat. Are those also
Yeah.
something? Yeah. Are those also something that Melissa or Andrea, you wanted to speak to? I can read them out, or I can see if Miss Nordbeck would like to maybe email you these as well.
Looking here. So for the 4.2.1, requiring a different type of housing allowed, if type is located within a quarter mile, Andrea, is that part of the mixed use requirement?
Yes, that is.
Okay, Ms. Norbeck, that policy was evaluated. The mixed use policies they went through kind of an extensive evaluation. Oh gosh, I want to say like in 2017 or 2018, and that was a change that was made and supported by the board at that time. And it was actually initiated by the Hillsborough County Economic Development Department. They wanted to see some flexibility in the mixed use categories for larger employers. So if someone wanted to come to town and provide a lot of jobs, they wanted to see if there was a way to initiate some flexibility where you could meet the mix of use requirement, because when you're in a mixed use future land use category and your site is big enough, there's different acreage thresholds. 10 acres and 20 acres are the two. Then one of the ways that someone could meet that mix of use requirement is by being on the same side of the street within a quarter mile. And the most important part is connected by a continuous public sidewalk. And that's the one that is harder to meet, because if you're across the street, you don't have a continuous public sidewalk. So you have to be on the same side of the roadway and very, very close to the subject site. That's the only way that that one can count. And then regarding the comment about residential support uses, I mean, I hear your comment and your concerns are duly noted. Daycares are considered a residential support use. And for the other people on the call, residential support uses are essentially the uses that you want to have nearby your home so they can support the residential population nearby. So those are things like churches, schools, daycares, assisted living facilities, and things like that. That is a good comment, and it is something that we look at when there's a residential support use that we all want near our homes. We also have to ensure that there's compatibility with the nearby neighbors. So if there was something adjacent, we would look at increased screening and buffering along with development services staff through the rezoning. So your point is duly noted. We understand that there are compatibility concerns, and there's other supporting policy language in that same section that would ask staff to look into issues when there are circumstances when things are potentially incompatible, or when there could be compatibility concerns. We would ask for something other than what's required by land development code.
Thank you, Melissa. There are a couple more. I do want to mention, if anyone does have a question, again, please feel free to raise your hand or add them into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those. Maybe let's grab this question quickly, Melissa. So the Carrollwood Community Plan mentions light rail and has a map showing train stations on Dale Mabry. Is Goal 6 speaking directly to these stations?
So good afternoon. It's Jay Collins with the Planning Commission. So
thanks, Jay.
So light rail in unincorporated Hillsborough County is a plan, but there is no actual light rail that we have for unincorporated Hillsborough County. So the community plan lays out an idea of where in the future, if there were to be light rail stations, but there is no plan for light rail along Dale Mabry or anywhere else in unincorporated Hillsborough County. The only area in Hillsborough County that has any rail at all is the Tampa streetcar. That is the only area. The only other area that is looking at the possibility of transit-oriented development more in the near term, the next couple of years, may be Fowler Avenue for buses. And those are the only areas right now in unincorporated Hillsborough County or in the city of Tampa. Fowler Avenue in the streetcar in downtown Tampa and Ybor City.
Thank you, Jay. That's excellent. All right, I'm not seeing any other comments or raised hands at this time.
For the folks that joined us a little later, this meeting's being recorded and it is going to be on our website. So if you missed the beginning presentation, it will be online either probably most likely tomorrow or Wednesday.
Again, if you do have a question, please feel free to raise your hand or put your question into the chat. Please explain why not allowing a flu map amendment is a good idea. I think, Melissa, you might be referring to the neighborhood mixed use 6 category, possibly? Melissa Leinhard, what do you think?
I think this ties, it sounds like this ties into what I said before about not
Yeah.
having to change your future land use category just to have some kind of non-residential,
Residential.
use or zoning. And what I would say to that is that's why we have commercial locational criteria, is so a site could, when someone applies for a rezoning, then that site, its location, the scale, all of those types of things are evaluated as part of commercial locational criteria. And so that is kind of the governing piece of the comprehensive plan when it comes to those non-residential uses.
Thank you, Melissa. Any other questions at this time? All right, we've got one. Will the development of the area under the Selman in South Tampa, Bay to Bay Shore, be discussed here? The development of the area under the Selman.
No, that would be outside of unincorporated Hillsborough County. That is the topic today. We're talking about the comprehensive plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County. So that would be anything in Hillsborough County that is not in the city of Tampa, nor Plant City, nor Temple Terrace, if that helps.
And for the individual who did actually send that in, I'm going to put my email in the chat and they can chat me and we can go ahead and get a planner here at Plan Hillsborough who can help you with that question.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that.
Question in the chat.
I'm not sure how, Mac. Are you, I think we can hear you. Mac in queue. Did you have a question? Oh, no worries. I can mute you. If you have a question, just let us know and I'm happy to unmute you. Were there any other questions? Give people just a few minutes here. Again, if you did join late, we will have this presentation, the recording on the website. That's here on the screen. You can also contact any of us and we'll be happy to help. Will a light be stood up at 12 and 19 in Ruskin? Let me see. Jay, is that something that they could contact you about as well?
Yeah, that's another thing that we can go ahead and find a planner here at the county who would be able to help them with that.
Beautiful. Absolutely. So just shoot an email over to Collins, J@plancom.org, and he can help answer that question for you. If you're joining late, this presentation will be available on our website. Oh, and Andrea just put that into the chat. Beautiful. Did anyone else have any other questions? I am not seeing any at this time. I truly appreciate everyone taking a portion of their lunch hour to be with us today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. Our contact information is here on the screen. You can also go to our website and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful day and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.